guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. So I wanted to talk about a game I just beat, and that is the Technomancer. The Technomancer was made by a team, I think they're French, called Spiders. Not by a bunch of actual spiders, but that would be interesting. And they made other games like, I think it's called Mars Warlog, and there's another one that is escaping me the name of, but they're a pretty ambitious team, I would say, who put out this game that was sort of like a budget release. I think it was $40 on release. I paid $7.99 for it at the Microsoft Store online for a disc, mailed to me with free shipping. So I thought that was a good price point. I played it once briefly in the past. The closest thing I would probably say it reminds me of is something like The Witcher, but dumbed down. Not nearly as big or open or in-depth, but still pretty good. You have to keep in mind this is like a B-level or a mid-level game developer. This isn't like some huge company like EA or Nintendo or whatever. So the game is pretty much something like The Witcher, but it has Total Recall type elements. So some people are classifying it as like a cyberpunk game. I guess it has like small nods to cyberpunk, with their, futuristic aesthetic, but I wouldn't say it's fully cyberpunky. It's more like dystopian Total Recall. So if you like that movie a lot, I would probably check this out. You're this guy named Zachariah Mancer, really dumb name, and you're a Technomancer, which is this group of like mutants that has these powers to control electricity. So they can. Everyone keeps comparing them to Jedis. I mean, I've seen the first Star Wars film, the original first film with Luke Skywalker or whatever. I never got into it. I don't really like Star Wars, so I get the point, but I didn't really connect the dots to that. So they're mutants, and there's sort of an uneasy trust with them and all these other factions. There's like these bad guys that live in the slums that are like gangsters. There's a military that you work for that you can choose to sort of side with or sort of not. There's these aliens and like weird creatures you can fight, that sort of look like worms and shit. And there's another faction that I can't think of right now. There's like another faction like sand people that live out in the desert. There's these sort of like Dune. There's these mutants that look like big mutants from Fallout. That are really strong. So it's interesting. There's all these different factions vying for different things, trying to manipulate things. Government. There's sort of like government agencies ran by these weird factions, and there's no. I think there's, from what I gathered, and the story's sort of weird. There's no actual government. I think that everyone is their own government, like the factions, and they're sort of warring with each other. So at points in the game, you have to decide which faction to sort of lean with or help. It's sort of like something like The Witcher. It's sort of like Mass Effect to a degree, but smaller scope. The things I liked about the game were the setting. I thought some of the characters were fairly interesting. I liked the atmosphere and the way it looks. The combat was okay initially. You pretty much just spam X. I played the game on easy because I hear on normal it's super hard. So I played it on easy. You pretty much spam X and spin around and hit things, or there's 3 different modes of fighting. You can fight with a bow staff, which is what I use, and just run around and smack people. You can fight with sort of like a rod or a mace with a shield, which is a more defensive stance. And then there's a gun and a knife or something. So there's that. And then you can use electricity and charge yourself up. So it's interesting. The fighting isn't so great. It's a little clunky. But it's pretty good. It's repetitive. It's very repetitive, the fighting, and by the end of the game I was kind of sick of the fighting. But overall it was good. I would say, impressed by how ambitious these people that made the game, these 30 people who worked on it. I was impressed by what they were able to do with the game, the level of graphics. The sound was pretty good, the music was pretty good. The voice work was okay. It wasn't cheesy, but it definitely sounded like it wasn't great. Some people say that it's the same 10 or 12 voice actors did the whole voice work in all the games, so that may be the case. But, it was pretty good. I was interested in some of the side missions. I was interested in some of the characters and the stories. I wasn't like completely enveloped in it, so I was skipping some things. But overall, I was interested. The other thing I didn't like about the game was that you tend to backtrack through a lot of the same places. So there's like 5 main areas or so, maybe more like 8. But during there's this place called the Exchange, and there's this place called the Slums, and this place called Underworks, and they all intertwine, sort of like a maze. It's sort of difficult to find your way around them, and also you have to keep going back through them to get to where you want to go. So you'll fight like these worm alien things, or whatever the hell they are, and then you'll go back and refight them again to get to the next area. So it's kind of mundane. I felt like there was some filler there, that there should have been more of a way to like just fast travel between locations, like small locations, not just big locations, because later on you do go to these like big valleys, and you know, Mutant Valley and Noctis and the Old Dome, so you can fast travel through those. But I felt like on a smaller scope, I had to keep backtracking through things and fighting the same soldiers and the same aliens over and over and over and over. What else? I would say if you go into this game expecting a AAA title, you will probably be disappointed. If you go into this game with low expectations, you'll be surprised. I wouldn't say it's a great game, but I wouldn't say it's a bad game. It's very middle ground. It has interesting ideas. As I said, I think that the team was very ambitious, and they put out a good game. People initially were turned off by the game due to the fighting, the jankiness, the repetitive nature of the fighting, and the difficulty. You know, they patched that. I think they made it easier now, especially, as I said, on easy mode. Yeah, it's a fun game. I'd say it's probably about I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 hour game if you do the main quest. I did a bunch of side stuff, and then I started getting bored of it because it's just very repetitive fetch quests of, you know, talk to this person, then go talk to that person, then deliver this to, and again, you're going through these little tunnels, and you're fighting the same stuff over and over and over. So I was like, all right, I've had enough. I just want to go through the main story and see what's happening. You do get partners. I get like 5 or 6 people you can choose from. Initially, you start with 2. They leave, but you do get 5 other ones. One's a mutant. One's a doctor. One's like a mechanic. You know, there are some like sort of searching areas where you have to go in and search for certain items and try and find things, like specific things to a quest. You can, you know, date one of the people in your team. So there's all types of stuff like that. I felt like some of it wasn't fully explained or developed, but overall I was impressed, and I would give the game a solid 6 or 5.5. I don't think it's a bad game. I think you just have to have, you know, your expectations in check. And like the open world type of games, but on a much smaller scope, like Mass Effect or The Witcher, as I've now said twice, or this will be the 3rd time. And yeah, that's about it. So check out the Technomancer. I mean, if you've played it, let me know what you think. It got beat up really badly by IGN and every other critic. I don't think it deserved that, especially from where it came from, being a small independent developer. I was impressed. So yeah, 5.5 or 6 for the Technomancer. If you like games about like Mars and Total Recall and all that stuff, I would say to check it out if you can get it for like under $10. It was like $10 recently on the Microsoft Store online digitally, and it's still $8 at the Microsoft Store for a disc. So thanks guys for watching. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.